Coronavirus started in China, but Europe became the hub for its global spread. When the coronavirus began to spread, Mongolia took sensible precautions. It halted border crossings from China, with which it shares a 2,877-mile border. Mongolia also imposed travel bans on people from South Korea and Japan, the other epicenters of the pandemic at the time. Yet the virus nonetheless found its way to Mongolia, where the first infected person, known as the index case, was a Frenchman who had come to the country from France via Moscow. The story is the same for many other countries that became part of the pandemic due to infected people carrying it from Europe. South Africa's first coronavirus cases had gone to northern Italy for a skiing trip. South America's first case was a Brazilian who had traveled to Italy's Lombardy region, and Bangladesh's first cases were Bangladeshis who had also come from Italy. Panama's index case was imported from Spain, and Nigeria's first experience with coronavirus was an Italian business traveler. Jordan's was imported from Italy. As COVID-19 cripples the US and ravages many countries in the world, politicians are battling to craft a narrative of who is to blame for its damage. The virus started in China, of course, but narratives of how it went from epidemic to global pandemic often leave out a crucial element: the role of Europe. European countries have been hit much harder than Asian nations and have spread the virus significantly more than other regions. The Intercept went through news reports of COVID-19 index cases across the world, and the results were startling. Travel from and within Europe preceded the first coronavirus cases in at least 93 countries across all 5 continents, accounting for more than half of the world's index cases. Travel from Italy alone preceded index cases in at least 46 countries, compared to 27 countries associated with travel from China. One of the reasons European travel facilitated the spread of the coronavirus was because those countries were late to close air links. Italy closed one terminal of Milan's main airport on March 16, when the northern region of Lombardy already had 3,760 cases in a population of 10 million people. By contrast, China had shut down flights out of Hubei province on January 23, when there were 500 reported cases worldwide and 17 deaths in Hubei among a population of 58 million. London's Heathrow and Paris's Charles de Gaulle airports are still open as cases soar in both of those cities, while Spain's air operators only closed major terminals in Madrid and Barcelona when air traffic had ground to a halt anyway. The media has paid relatively little attention to the role of Europe as an accelerator of the virus's spread. A popular New York Times data graphic, for example, tracks the spread of the virus but stops mapping the spread when China is no longer its main exporter. Other reports target China more bluntly, like a widely shared article in The Atlantic that stated, "Is this a time for blame?" Yes, it is. To an extent, this makes sense. The outbreak began in Wuhan, China's 9th most populous city, and Chinese authorities covered up its dangerous spread early on. Travel from China infected major countries like South Korea, Italy, Russia, Germany, India, and the US. But as China, South Korea, Taiwan, and Hong Kong were stabilizing their coronavirus rates through a combination of massive testing, rigorous contact tracing, and strict lockdown measures, infections in European countries were shooting up. Despite witnessing the devastation in China, and the rapid response put in place by its neighbors, European countries were flat-footed as the virus spread rapidly from Milan, Paris, and London to countries in Africa, Latin America, and its European neighbors. Did European countries ask for advice from Asian ones? I don't think so, said Dr. François Daubis, director of the Agency for Research on AIDS and Hepatitis in Bordeaux, France. We saw the reactions of Asian countries, but at the time we didn't think they would be a model because we didn't believe we would have the same epidemic. European public health officials were initially modeling their responses to coronavirus after the 2003 SARS epidemic, which was more locally contained in Asia, he added. Before we saw the world as a globe spinning in the vast expanse of space we once believed it was flat and the sun revolved around us. Before we knew the dangers of mercury, as a neurotoxin and overall health no-no, it was once considered the go-to treatment for a host of medical conditions, for everything from syphilis to parasites. Before we had modern health-conscious cosmetics, women would adorn themselves with lead-filled face paint and wash their skin with ammonia. They would slowly poison themselves but were convinced it was essential for true beauty. The knowledge we have gained over the years has not come without a fair share of innocent misunderstandings, but thankfully, as we know more, we are able to make more informed choices based on actual science, on truth, on what works. It is crucial we build our actions on a foundation of truth. Our beliefs about weight loss have centered around constantly shifting paradigms. Throughout the decades, we have blamed various things for our inability to lose weight and keep it off: high-fat foods, carbohydrates, calories, lack of motivation, genetics. We have, in a way, been the people who thought the sun orbited us. Deep down, we may sense there's another reason for our inability to control our appetite and our expanding waistline, but just don't know what it is. If you look at the diet and health industry we have created, you'll see the answers we're fed about the obesity epidemic. We are supplied new answers and solutions all the time, and so, full of hope, we try them, only to be disappointed when we end up back where we started. What if I told you the health industry has got it all wrong? What if I were to tell you that we actually have the solution for why you have gained weight and been unable to lose it? Would you believe me? If you're anything like the people I've just described, the people who have trusted the answers and solutions in the past, probably not. You may be burnt out on hope. Yet, you are reading these words, so there must be some trace of hope left, and I want to work with that tiny bit of remaining hope to change your life. And I mean it. We're here to show you a new way, to point you in the direction of the actual cause of your weight gain. No more blaming the wrong thing, looking in the wrong direction, no more wasting your time. The real cause. This new direction starts with something called leptin. Never heard of leptin before? You're not the only one. This hormone is a lesser-known player in our hormonal system, which is sad since it is responsible for so much within our body. Did you know leptin helps regulate bone mass, the menstrual cycle, the synthesis of thyroid hormones, our appetite and metabolism? And this is just scratching the surface. Leptin is known as the obesity hormone and the fat hormone. A pretty big clue for what it's responsible for. When our body operates faultlessly, as a well-oiled machine, leptin would be produced by your body's fat cells and communicate with the hypothalamus in our brain via the bloodstream. The amount of leptin would determine whether the body stores fat or loses it. A minor increase in leptin concentration reduces the appetite and leads to a decrease in body weight. 1. This is how things are supposed to work. A high level of leptin in the body informs your brain that there is enough fat stored, you are not starving, you will survive, and so your appetite is switched off and you burn more fat. Similarly, if your body fat were to decrease, leptin should follow suit and diminish, signaling to your brain to stop burning fat, to store the fat you have, to increase your appetite and prompt you to eat. This is how things are supposed to function. But what happens when something interrupts the balance which our body is meant to keep? That's when leptin resistance occurs, and this leptin resistance is the reason for our fruitless, yet well-intentioned, attempts to take control of our health and body. Once you are leptin resistant, you won't lose the weight no matter how little you eat or how much exercise you do. Thankfully, there is a way out. Your life doesn't need to be ruled by leptin resistance, there is something you can do. Real results. Real science. No wishing for the best. And this is where we come in. If you've had enough of the endless trying and disappointment, if you've had enough of feeling like a prisoner in your body and a prisoner to food, then a product called Leptitox may help. It is a groundbreaking supplement program that addresses the root cause and breaks the devastating cycle of weight gain once and for all. For more information, click the link down below in the description.